Hello, it's so great to see you at STEAM class again this week. We're going to be focusing on the engineering design process. This is new to some of you, but most of you have had me before, and you know that we have the steps of the design process: ask, imagine, plan, create, and improve. So last week we were given an engineering challenge to answer the question, how can we find materials at home? Because Ms. McCormick can't send us materials. So we came up with the idea that we could use a stick for our material. And now we're going to focus on what other materials could we use to finish our plan. So last week we imagined what could we turn the stick into. So you looked at the shape and the size, and you imagined what you could turn it into. And then you drew a plan. Now I noticed, because we're just starting off, our plans had some things missing. So you know what engineers do when that happens? They go back and improve. So this week we're going to improve our plan before we start creating. So the first thing we're going to improve, actually I should have said the first thing we're going to use to help us improve our plan is our ABC diagram. So we're going to look right now and we're going to say, A, accurate. Is this picture an accurate diagram of what a flower really looks like? B, is it big? Does it fill up most of the paper? C, is it colorful? And D, does it have labeled details? Also, we want to make sure that it includes the name, your teacher, and the date. It seems like it's missing some of those details. And this little diagram can help you. If you ever forget, you can go back and look at it. So now let's look at the improved plan. So Ali added his name, Ali Bazzi, Miss Spencer, and the date. I noticed that where this was blank before, there's now a beautiful pink color, and there's orange and some black here for the petals, the seeds. The leaves now have veins on them, and the stems is labeled with what it was made out of, a stick. I also noticed Ali added a cool sentence to explain what he created. That is not a stick, that's a flower. That's a little bonus. That would be the E that we do in at the end of the year. But I like that how this is already done ahead of time and is showing all the details. This is a really good job from one of my students last year. So now let's go ahead and look at the next step. So to improve it, he added color and more accuracy on the drawing, adding in the seeds and the colors, making sure everything's the right shape and size. So now we're going to do a T-chart. Remember to start with a T-chart. We need to draw a giant letter T to divide your paper in half. Now what's important after you finish your plan is to think, what will you need to be able to create out of materials the item that is in your plan? So for this, I was thinking for the flower that a cardboard tube might be a good idea to actually form the petals. And I was thinking the pink crayon would be important, but you can see my list is not complete. So I would have to go through and add the other things that might be helpful. Now remember, your materials are things that you can find around the house, like things from nature, like our stick, which will have to be added onto our diagram. Here on the left-hand side, I'll have to be added as a material. But you could also use other things from your house. The recycle bin is my favorite place to find things to create. So I often use boxes or cardboard. Tubes are one of my favorite things. I also like finding things from nature and plastic, different plastic items. You might even find some other interesting containers made out of metal or plastic that you could use. So I was playing around a little bit just to see what might work for a flower, since so many of you picked that idea. And I noticed that I had these really cool twist ties at home that could attach the cardboard, and I could use some tools to shape it how I want and make it the color and size and shape that I want. So one of the tools that I used to start my creation was scissors. And I was planning on using crayons or markers to add in the color. Now this is just the start, and we're actually not starting our creation this week. This week all we're doing is finishing up our plans. We're doing this just step by step slowly so that we can make sure that we're looking for any mistakes. So I'm going to go back to where we made mistakes. Whoops, sorry. I'll go on this one and then I'll talk about it. All right, so what I'm going to look at is your project, and I'm going to be using a rubric to grade this. I think this is a little easier for me to communicate with you how you're doing, but I want to remind you, the rubric is a year-long goal. That means the first time you do it, which is today, you are not going to be getting a perfect score. Even Miss McCormick, the first time she did it, did not get a perfect score because I had to learn from my mistakes. Engineers learn from their mistakes. So Miss McCormick, when she's grading your project, she's going to look to see, did you use your imagination to draw an object from materials that you have at home that was accurate, big, colorful, and had detailed labels? So you want to think about the flower and how can you use materials at home to make it. So I'll be checking again for those ABCD diagrams. If you do all 4, you'll get 4 points. If you do 3, you'll get 3. If you do 2, you get 2. And if you do 0 or 1, you'll get a 1, meaning you need some improvement. Make sure that it contains a stick because that's one of our criteria. Remember, criteria is what you need to do the project. Now here, the second thing we're going to look at and what we're adding new this week is the materials and tools diagram. So on the ABC diagram, you're going back and looking at it and seeing how you can improve it. And for the materials and tools, you're drawing a new T-chart today, and you're going to make sure that you include all the items you need to make a finished project. I just want to go back a couple slides to our original diagram and summarize what we're going to be doing. So we're asking ourselves, what can we create from a stick? We're imagining a plan. And then you're drawing it following the criteria that engineers use of an ABCD diagram. We're not going to do create, but we are going to improve our original plan, and we're going to improve it with labels and color and making sure it's big. And then we're going to make another improvement by adding a materials and tools list. That was part of the plan that we didn't talk about last week, but it's a really important part of an engineering design plan. We need to know what materials and tools we're going to need before we can start creating. So I'm really excited to be improving our plans this week. And then next week, we'll talk about how can we take those great plans and turn them into our creations. I'm so excited to be working on engineering projects with you, and I can't wait to see what you send me. Have a great day. See you next week.